In this past season of my life, I've been fascinated with the omniscience of God. Even as early as this morning, I was just enamored and finding deep security in the fact that God is omniscient. This idea of God being omniscient speaks to the fact that God is all-knowing. This is difficult for us to understand because we are constantly learning new things. But what actually should produce peace in the life of believers is that God isn't learning anything. He actually knows everything. This idea of God being Alpha and Omega is that he is as much at the beginning as he is in the end, that everything through God's sovereignty in the midst of free will being given is working together for this glorious plan that he has predetermined before the foundations of the earth. That is God's omniscience. And what's even more crazy about God's omniscience is that we can't even fully put human vernacular to how omniscient he is. The Bible lets us know that he knows every star by name. The Hubble telescope was invented several decades ago, and we learned when the Hubble telescope was created that there aren't millions of stars. There's actually billions and trillions of stars and galaxies. God knows every single one by name. He's given it an identity. And so the vastness of God and the omniscience of God is beautiful. But the omniscience of God is also personal. God is big enough to create everything by the power of his word, but also intimate enough to have a relationship with every human being individually. And so the reason why God's omniscience produces security in my believer is that God fully knows me. Have you ever thought about the fact that God thinks about you? That God's mind is so big that you're always in it? In Psalm 139, I was reading this morning, David wrote a beautiful psalm. I'm actually in the process of trying to memorize the entire psalm, Psalm 139. It's beautiful. Shout out to Pastor Tim Coots doing scripture memorization with our men. He writes in verse 17, "How precious to me are your thoughts, O God." And then he continues to say that he can't understand the sum of them. And then he uses description by saying they are more than the sand that is on seashores. That's how consistent and often we are in the mind of God. More than the individual grains of sand, God's thoughts are about us because he's omniscient. And so the question for the believer should never be, is God thinking about me? The question for the believer should be, am I thinking about God? And what actually empowers me to think more about God and be more enamored with him is when I recall that I am always in his mind. Many people live wayward because they forget that God is thinking about them, that God sees them, that God knows them, that God is with them. God's omniscience, meaning that he fully knows you and is always thinking about you, should produce a godly confidence, security, and watch this, proper living under heaven's gaze. If you believe that you are beyond heaven's gaze, you will live like heaven isn't watching you. If you believe that you are beyond God's eye, you will live like God doesn't see and isn't watching and isn't concerned and isn't involved in the life that he has given you that you are now living. The omniscience of God has brought me more security in this season than any other attribute of who God is. God, you are so big that you created the universes by the power of your word. And you're so intimate that within all of that, I'm in your mind. You care about what I care about. You know my weaknesses, my deficiencies, my strengths, my success. You see it all. And from the overflow of this glorious omniscience, you keep me in your mind. That empowers me to think about God more often. And so if you're watching this and you find yourself in a position where you're like, man, I don't feel like I think about God enough. I'm trying to become more disciplined. I'm trying to be with him more. More power to you. But what will empower that is actually you knowing that he's thinking about you all the time, that you never get out of his mind. And when I approach him from the position of understanding that, my affection is stirred toward him. I pray that encourages somebody that you're in the mind of God. You can never get out of it. He's always thinking about you because he's omniscient. And what is our glorious response? Let me think about you too and what you have for me.